This hotel started in 1924. It is named after the then US President Roosevelt, and in next year it will complete its 100 years. That means it will become a historical building, and then nobody would be able to change anything. So you can sort of refurbish it. We cannot rebuild it, but can still be rebuilt. In 1979, an American real estate magnate, Paul Milstein, leased the hotel to Pakistan International Airlines and to a Saudi prince. They worked together for several years, and then I think it was in the year 2000 or something, the Saudi prince decided to pull out, and ultimately PIA acquired like 99% shares of the hotel. The Saudi prince still has 1% because he wanted his name to be there, so that he would have the option of buying it back whenever he wants. But it is now controlled by the PIA. Ran not smoothly. I mean, sometimes smoothly, sometimes not. There was a time when it was considered a very good hotel, and there was a time it was in bad shape. I'm talking about its functions under PIA, but it did continue till the year 2019 when COVID-19 came, and because of COVID-19, a lot of, not just Roosevelt, a lot of very posh and prominent hotels in New York closed down as people stopped visiting the city, because as you remember, New York was the worst hit by COVID-19. And so PIA had to make some arrangement because they were incurring huge losses actually. So finally they decided to lease it to the New York City. The New York has leased few other hotels too and other places in the city because it needs them to keep refugees coming from Mexico and other Latin American countries. There are some from other places as well, but most of these refugees are those who cross the Mexican border into Texas. Now, Texas has a very conservative Republican government which does not want refugees. What it does is, whenever they come, instead of pushing them back into Mexico, it puts them on buses and sends them to places like New York, where they have sort of liberal democratic government that are more tolerant of refugees. And New York actually tops the list. And so what happened was that the city ended up having thousands of refugees who were practically sleeping on sidewalks and creating a problem for the city. And so the city decided to house them somewhere, and that's how it acquired this hotel and other hotels. And now Roosevelt has turned into a refugee shelter. My experience is I have seen places here in the United States, obviously in Pakistan, in Russia and other European countries, and even in America, like say the Amtrak, which is a railway company which is run by the government, and it does not run successfully. The trains get late. It does not provide facilities that it should or it would have had it been run by a private company, as trains in several European countries are. So I think somehow governments cannot run a commercial venture. What the PIA should have done is, as it did now, they should have just estimated how much money they need to make profit, and then they would have leased it to a commercial company and allowed it to run it whichever the way they wanted. And that way they would have made some money too, and the hotel would have stayed in good shape. But then the PIA would have lost its control, and they didn't want that. I mean, one reason it didn't run well is that all the decisions were taken in Pakistan, and because that is how the government runs. I mean, the decisions are taken in a centralized way in the capital city by government high up, and those decisions take time. So if the hotel needed an X amount of money to repair or for other works that had to be approved by somebody in Islamabad or some high official, some government committee, some government body, and that always took forever, then a lot of Pakistani government employees would come and stay here, Pakistani leaders would come and stay here, and they would get tax break, they would get other sort of concessions. And I remember when the rate in Manhattan was like between $300 to $400 a day, Pakistani officials were paying as less as $100 a day, and that is why PIA could not run it. I mean, it is not to blame the PIA. The government simply cannot. No government can run a commercial venture. Let's discuss what's happening now. The hotel, as I told you, has been leased to the government of New York. The New York government will pay PIA about $220 million in 3 years. And they will actually, under the agreement, if and when they return the hotel to PIA, they will clean it, do all the repairs, repair all the damages that would be done by those who are staying here. And ultimately, I think PIA may end up making some profit. So I think it's not a bad arrangement. But what is happening now is, because it is a refugee shelter and not a hotel, so the New York government keeps about 4 to 5, in some cases even 6 people in one room. You see, each room has one bathroom. It's all crammed up, very crowded. People are sleeping in the lobby. People are sleeping outside on the sidewalk. And then all sorts of incidents have happened. People have had fights. People have been caught selling drugs. People have been caught beating up each other. People have been caught having fights with the outsiders. And it's in a very posh area of Manhattan. So obviously Manhattan shopkeepers and other major hotels and other companies have already started protesting. So they are not very happy with the situation. I mean, from once a very posh and comfortable hotel, it has turned into a squalor. I mean, into a ghetto. I mean, you can see that. I mean, see the difference is huge. So, for instance, there is this Grand Central Hotel, Grand Central Station near the hotel that has just been renovated. It looks very beautiful, very impressive, very clean, and then there are other buildings that are equally clean as this hotel used to be. And then you go there and you suddenly see one ugly building which is falling apart. So I don't know how long this can continue. I remember I have stayed in that hotel. It is important. This hotel is important because it is very close to United Nations. So during the UN General Assembly every year, people, even world leaders, prefer to stay there. I have seen President Musharraf, I have seen Prime Minister Junajo, I've seen President Ziaul. I'm calling them presidents because they were the presidents, whether they were elected or not. Although I never endorsed them military government, but they were presidents. So they used to stay there. I've also seen foreign leaders staying there, foreign ministers staying there of various countries, diplomats and all. So I have seen this hotel as an important Manhattan landmark, and particularly because of its closeness to the United Nations. It's a walking distance from the United Nations. And from that, coming down to its present status is a big fall. I don't know whether PIA can retain it. I don't know. Nobody has an answer. I don't know. I mean, PIA would be able to retain this hotel if PIA survives. It seems that PIA may or may not survive as an independent organization. PIA may be sold to a private owner, and if it does, then of course whoever owns PIA will also own the hotel, and that probably will be good for PIA and for the hotel. Then if you have a private owner, then it will be able to run it in a better way. PIA as a government institution, even if it is refinanced and it is augmented with government support and everything, may not be able to run it for very long. No matter how much money you put into PIA, I don't think is going to make profit in the near future. And if PIA does not make profit, I think the hotel will also not make